Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. It's us, TNT, about to drop some wisdom. I'm Tonia.
I'm Treneti.
Awesome, and today we are talking about what is a retrograde planet. We're gonna go in 10 to 15 minutes max, and you're gonna have, by the end of this video, a clear understanding of what a retrograde planet is in astrology, how to use it for your benefit if you're in a retrograde cycle, and what it means to have a retrograde planet in your birth chart. So stay tuned and you'll have all that knowledge dropped in just a few minutes. So to get started here, to begin, what is retrograde? Retrograde is when a planet appears to be 3 times closer to the planet, that is Earth, than it actually is. So it looks like it's zoomed in, like say this is Mars and say this is Earth. If Mars is retrograde, it's gonna look like it's here in relationship to Earth, okay? But it's not. We both know that. Mars doesn't just move that close to Earth all of a sudden. It looks like it does. And so what does that mean for us in astrology? You're gonna feel that planet times 3. So that's kind of like the gist of like what it actually means. Tren, do you want us, before we get into like more detail about like what that means for our lives and like how we can like break that down, do you want to go into some like misnomers or even just like things that you know or that people talk about when they say, oh my god, retrograde? Like, do you want to just scan through that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like most people watching this video, like the main retrograde that they're going to think of immediately is like Mercury retrograde. It's like, that's like the planet that everyone likes to blame for like why like shit isn't working out. It's like, oh damn, Mercury retrograde, like damn raw, like why is this happening? Oh, it must be Mercury retrograde. Or like the funniest part for me is like when like we're clearly not in a retrograde and like stuff happens and then people are like, is Mercury in retrograde? And it's like, no, you can't blame Mercury for all of your problems.
For everything.
And
right?
Yeah, you can't blame it for everything. And in fact, like when that planet goes into retrograde, or like the way you described it, like it gets amplified, like its presence and influence on Earth feels amplified. It's just an opportunity to clarify like what's going on in communication streams in our lives, and it can actually be like a really forward moving and progressive time if you work with the energy well. It's like a lot of the things that like we do like mindlessly or like really quickly, like and unconsciously in our day-to-day life, like when that planet is not in retrograde and it just so happens to like work out, it just takes a little bit more like presence and grace to move with that energy, because there might be like just more awareness or amplification on elements where our communication isn't solid or isn't grounded, or where like it's not that the confusion wasn't there before, it's just that now you can see where there's like a gap or a breach in communication between you and another person, or a concept or something that you're working on. If there's holes in it, you're gonna notice where those like holes are.
Yep, that is such a fantastic way of describing that. That is such a fantastic way of describing that energy, because it's like intensified times 3. So like you said, it's going to go almost under review, or like a magnifying glass is how I envision it. So like whatever planet we're talking about, let's just roll with Mercury. It's going to be like your influence of Mercury is always there, right? But when it's retrograde, it's like Mercury, Mercury, Mercury. Like you just said, if it's hidden, it will come to light during a Mercury retrograde, because it's like turning up the volume on an amp. But the amp is Mercury's power. It's its frequency, like sending out its vibes of communication and like needing to figure that out, right? So it turns it up times like several notches, like 0 to 10, right? And like when we're in that cycle, whatever planet it is, like we just talked about Mercury's communications, but if it is on Mars, for example, to bounce back to that, you know, it's going to issues of aggression, issues of action, issues of proactive response, and like desires, and even, you know, building one's dreams, like the nuts and bolts of it, not so much like the brain, like, oh, of like what am I going to do, the logistics to like build that dream. Another example would be Venus. Venus is,
Yes.
right? Have you heard
Yeah.
of retrograde? Like everybody.
Oh yeah. Everybody starts breaking up.
Yeah. Right.
It's like everybody starts breaking up, like business partnerships, relationships, like all of the things that are like, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing is about the Venus retrograde is usually, according to a lot of astrologers, and I've kind of seen this play out in different ways, but if a couple, let's say, if they break up during a Venus retro, they usually don't stay broken up.
Exactly.
Because Venus ain't done doing what it's doing. It's doing what it's doing, which is taking you apart, or it's like you said, it's kind of amplifying what's already there because you have to deal with it. It's bringing it up into the life for everybody to see, okay? But when it goes forward again, it's going to almost take that knowledge that it gained during a retrograde cycle. And that kind of transitions into like how to use a retrograde, like if you're in a, right? And I think this is key for our audience to understand, because if you're an astrology minded being and you're aware of the cycles of this universe and you want to use them, I don't want to say like capitalize on it, but if you want, because like connotations, but if you want to like, you can like do that. And so if you're in a retrograde, think of it as a cycle of casting. Like you're this powerful wizard or witch or whatever, high priestess, whatever you want to like identify as. You have the opportunity to like send mojo of that planet onto the planet almost, like while it's retrograde. And then when it goes forward or direct in astrology, it's going to take whatever you sent it and it's going to ground it into the tangible world. Does that make sense? Describing that?
Yeah, it makes total sense. It's like,
cool.
Yeah. It's great. I'm so happy that we're doing this and like explaining this, because I always try to explain it to my friends whenever like a retrograde period comes up. I'm like, use it to your advantage, because like the go-to, and this is like the go-to mentality with like almost anything that feels like intimidating. Like there's this like collective energy of like powerlessness or like effectiveness, and like people automatically go into like, oh, I shouldn't like do anything then mode, like, oh my gosh, Mercury's retrograde, I better not like communicate, I better not. It's like, are you a creator being or what? Like, are you gonna literally like sit there and let like it's a perception, a perceptive alignment, like put a wrench in your creative process, like stop you from doing whatever it is that you're here to do on this planet? Because if that's the case, then there's always going to be a different challenge and a different excuse that you can use to play small and to like not do your work. Like, oh, like I can't do this thing, it's fucking raining today, like I can't go outside. Like, oh no, like I was gonna go and like, you know, research this thing, or I was gonna go and put these flyers up over here, but it's snowing, so never mind. Like all of these different little things, it's the same little like monkey mind hacks of like, I can't because I'm not more powerful than this like external force, or like my will isn't like strong enough, something like that.
Yes. Did y'all hear the wisdom she just dropped? That made me tear up. That was so real. And like, to use that example and build off of it, it's kind of like the organic farmer. Like if you get a rain day as an organic farmer, do you just stop farming? No, that would be impossible. You don't stop farming, but maybe you adjust your plan.
Exactly.
Right? Like you're still getting where you need to go, or you're still doing what you need to do, but maybe you're going about it in a different way. And maybe that does mean delaying something till the next day if you need sunshine and your vibe isn't right. But at the same time, you need to like build it in. Perfect. I think that was fantastic. So like, I want to quickly ground that second bullet point out of 3 that we have to cover in this video by a quick example. So like, if you're going to use this energy when, let's just call it a Venus retrograde cycle, right? Trends. So like, we're talking about relationships. Venus is the planet that rules Libra and Taurus. It rules the 7th house and the 2nd house, respectively, to those signs, right? So it's partnerships, 7th house, and Taurus, like family, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What you own, like your property. So if you're going to use a Venus retrograde, for example, during a Venus retro cycle, you might be aware of what is going on. Like Treneti said, you might be breaking up with your business partner, you might be breaking up with your friend, whatever, your lover, your boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever. But like, pay attention. That's the first thing to do during a retrograde cycle. The second thing to do during a retrograde cycle is, after you build awareness of what's going on, like after you observe, just take a step back and observe what's going on, adjust, address, attack. Okay, so like, use it, in other words, like we've been talking about this whole time, use the energy. So say you notice, just hypothetically, to like really ground it and give this example roots, say you notice you and your boyfriend have, and this can be anybody, right, whatever, have like an abusive communication pattern, or say you have like this issue that's really been just like under the surface that you haven't talked about in your relationship, okay? And during a Venus retro, you notice that that issue is coming up more and more inside of you, but you don't want to like say anything to like burst the bubble or to like cause chaos or cause just, you know, any disharmony. During a Venus retrograde, it's the time to bring that stuff up. It's the time to open up that, because it's opening up whether or not you're going to be at the pilot helm or not. So are you,
Mm-hmm.
or are you just sitting back and letting that ship fly, you know?
Exactly.
So address it, use it, and be aware that like the energy and the intention that you bring to the table during that time is critical. If your intention is to cause chaos, you're going to cause chaos. If your intention is to heal and mend that situation, you'll likely heal and mend the situation. That's what I mean by casting. So, and then the third step would be to like let the retrograde cycle end and let it go forward again. Let the planet go direct, which takes weeks, sometimes, you know, longer. But it usually takes, just say, like weeks for a planet to go, you know, from retro to direct. Every planet is different with its cycles. But yeah, I mean, and then let it reap the rewards. When it goes direct, let you like just kind of soak in, or let the situation soak in the nutrients of whatever you cast upon the retrograde phase. And if you're looking to see if the planet is retrograde and you're not just like following a bunch of YouTubers, you can use astrology software like astrotheme.com. To me is the most simple one, where you can just see there's a little R next to the planet. But if you're new to astrology, you don't want to go that far, you're just looking to life out here, you know, build life, just listen to some internet people. It's all over. This is the age of Aquarius. But yeah, so that's a suggestion for that. And then we had that last one, Trend. Can we move on to what does it mean to have it in the chart, and then end the video? Is that cool with you?
Sure.
Okay. Did you have anything to add on that last one about how to use the retrograde in the heavens, though, before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a point coming up for me, just with the example that you put in about, you know, noticing things in a relationship of any sort and then like not wanting to communicate about it because you don't want to like rock the boat. And I think this, what I'm about to say, is relevant to like beyond retrograde. It's just like what is, in my experience, it's like if you're noticing something and you withhold that within because you don't want to rock the boat, that boat is still going to eventually probably get a hole in it and start letting water in and sink. But if you actually like go ahead and express what's going on, you might get a better chance to actually like find an island or a landmass and dock that boat and get off of that relationship, or just let it run its fucking course. Because like it's, and this is not just for romantic partners, this goes with every single person that we encounter in life. Is a like, it's a relationship, it's a mirroring, because you guys are seeing and witnessing each other. Something that didn't exist before that moment now exists. And so many people are in that like people pleasing mindset of like, oh, I want to be appropriate, like I hope I don't offend you, like what do you like, I want to do what you like. But then you end up in these like unstable relationships that don't actually like serve you in any capacity, because these people, they're not attracted to you as who you actually are and what you actually have to offer. They're just attracted to like the weird like contortion movements that you're doing to like try to appear to be appealing to them. And if you just like allow yourself to be yourself, the people who aren't supposed to be around you will be able to discern that much more quickly, and they will actually be like repelled by your energy, and that's a fucking good thing. It's a very good thing. If like someone, if you in your power, like people are either gonna love it and be completely attracted to it and be like, I am aligned with you, I love that, I'm all about that. But if you don't do that, if they're not supposed to be in your field, and you being you like creates some sort of reaction in them that they can't handle, like let them have that as soon as possible so that you don't have to deal with that. And if you notice something in a relationship and it doesn't sit well with you, if you bring it up, if that person's really down for you, they're going to actually be able to look at that, and like you're going to be able to have a clear like forward moving conversation with that energy. And if they can't look at that and it like makes them want to do any kind of like gaslighting or like manipulative techniques to like pull it another direction, you probably don't need that person in your reality anyway. So better that you speak your truth sooner than later. That's like the message.
Oh God, that was so eloquent. Thank you for that drop. For real. That was like so just like, this is what it is. Y'all deal with it. Like, that's a retrograde. Okay, cool. So then like the last topic of this short video is how to interpret this in the birth chart. Do you have a retrograde planet in your natal chart? So this is for people who are looking at their birth chart and they see a planet, they see a glyph for a planet, and there's a little R next to it, which means it was retrograde at the time that your soul came through into the physical incarnation of your body when you were birthed through your mother. Whether or not you believe your soul was already in your mom, whatever, at the time you were birthed through that portal of mama, okay, the planet was retrograde. So what does that mean? Well, something I haven't said yet about the retrograde is that it's typically considered to be a more internal aspect, meaning that it's internalizing whatever that force is, that Venus, that Mars, that Mercury, that Pluto, whatever, times 3. So it's like a time to go within. You go within 3 times as deeply on that topic of Venus, love, of Mars, action. Whatever it is, you're going inside. It's almost like a period of retreat and internal processing and figuring out and dealing right through those nuts and those bolts. Because when it goes forward, it's going to be out in the physical and open more. Okay. So if it's in your birth chart, that means that you have in this lifetime, you've been given a spiritual task, almost like a bill on the table, like deal with it, to go in 3 times as more deeply as you would have otherwise on that particular planet and the things that that planet rules. So let's just rock with Mercury for a minute. If you have a Mercury retrograde in the birth chart, you are almost demanded or deemed to go 3 times as hard with your communications. And hard, I don't mean like difficult necessarily, but I mean like the energy there. We see Mercury retrograde present in the charts of very skilled communicators as well, because it gives 3 times the power, remember? So of course you have to look at the aspects being made to the planet by other planets, and you have to look at the sign, and if the planet's happy in that sign or not happy in that sign. There's factors to be considered, but for the sake of generally just saying the truth about what a retrograde is, it's going to give you more juice to that planet. It's giving you a positive influence to the power of that planet. Now, of course, power in and of itself is not always a good thing. You have to direct the power, right? So if you have a Mercury retrograde in the birth chart, and let's just say it's in the sign of Libra, well, that's a nice Mercury because it's in an air sign to begin with, right? And it's going to make you very skilled in relationships and partnerships and meeting settings and social settings, perhaps. And it can make you balanced, right? Because Libra is balanced, so it can balance your communications. But say it's retro, so that's going to take on a whole new level of like extra. So it means you're going to be reflecting on Mercury themes throughout life, communications. You're going to have the opportunity to use communications in your daily life. This is just retrograde Mercury in general, okay? Not just in the sign of Libra, but you know, you're going to be able to use those communications. So maybe you're somebody who is in the media. Maybe you're somebody who hosts podcasts like we are. Maybe you're somebody who, that's like your essence in life. You are a communicator. Like maybe you're a manager because Mercury rules that, right, as well. Or a producer, or somebody who's like literally a communication figurehead, a networking figurehead. Okay, that's important, okay, to look at in the birth chart. And at minimum, on a personal level, not talking about like out in the world as much, but at minimum, a retrograde planet in the birth chart indicates your internal relationship with that planet. So in relationships, no matter how like personal or public those may be, if you have a Mercury retrograde that you're born under natally, you're going to be dealing with themes of communication. You're going to have to learn probably how to hone your own skill as a communicator throughout life and apply that knowledge that you gain. And once you learn, this is essential, this might be the most important thing on this topic for how, you know, understanding a retrograde planet in the birth chart. Once you learn how to use that planet, look up whatever that planet rules. If it's Mercury, if it's Venus, whatever, look up what it rules. Once you understand how to use what that planet rules in your life for your benefit, your ultimate benefit, that's when you become a triple threat, so to speak, or a triple, I don't know, grower. I don't know what like not threat would be, but like triple S, because there you go, because like you have that ability like harnessed. So I hope that makes sense. Tren, does that feel like that's a good description of like, I guess like I'm just trying to call people, I'm trying to like call people's attention to like building awareness around whatever creating your chart, because it's almost like a gift just as much as it is a spiritual task. Does that jive? Like you're gonna have to learn how to communicate better, or you're gonna have to deal with poor communicators, or you're gonna have to like be a communication figurehead with that Mercury retrograde example, right? But when it comes down to like how do you use that for your benefit, you need to like kind of intentionally put energy. And a lot of times folks put like subconscious energy anyway, or like we're just smart beings, so we like kind of figure it out without really consciously figuring it out, you know, like what you have to deal with. Like when I do readings, a lot of times people are like, oh my God, I have been doing that, or like, oh my God, that's my XYZ. So yeah, I feel like that's a good summary of that. Do you have anything to add to that, Tren, or like clarify with that?
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's like the way I see it, like when I'm working with beings, and even in my own path of like how I've come into my personal power and my gifts, like my greatest gifts were my like greatest fears or my greatest weaknesses at first, or like things where I felt like I couldn't do those things, or there was like a block or a challenge there. But it's like when you go into that block or that challenge, there is so much suppleness, so much energy there. Most often, almost always, your greatest gift, like the things that you think that are your like go to, I'm good at this, are like nothing compared to like what you can harvest from something that feels challenging, something that like you feel actually a little bit afraid to go into. There's power there. We're actually like far more afraid of our power than we are of like being small and like complacent. Like it's like, ooh, if I do that, like I might actually like shake something up on this planet, or like in myself if I do that. And it's that pressure of challenge that actually like creates the gem. It's just like diamonds or pearls. It's like it's that pressure that actually like brings that energy to light. So anytime we focus on something that feels a little bit vulnerable, a little raw, that's usually like the outcome if we stay due diligent about it.
Girl, beautiful. Okay, so at this time, we have gone over retrogrades pretty extensively. I feel really good about our coverage of this. Feel good, Tren?
Yep.
Awesome. So everybody, thanks for staying with us here. I hope you feel like you gained so much knowledge. I feel like we really tuned in and kind of just clarified this topic. Treneti and I are available for services. I do astrology readings. Tren, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I do intuitive mediumship guidance and empowerment, like specifically focused on activating the connection between your willpower and your voice, like the ability to speak and own your truth. And we all know that like our voice is actually like the most powerful thing that we have. And with our words, we literally create a reality. So if you want to dive into that, or if you want to dive into even more out there esoteric practices like speaking light language and connecting with your guides and soul file information through the Akashic records, that's the work that I focus on.
Yes. And I just do astrology stuff. She's like so next level esoteric. So like you want me to look at your chart, I can look at your chart, I can look at your chart and somebody else's chart. I can answer all sorts of questions about like karma and dharma. What are you here to do with your life? What does my chart mean? How can I accomplish X, Y, and Z? Things of that nature. So with that said, feel free to contact us at wizdomdropz@gmail.com. Those S sounding things are Z's, so it's wizdomdropz@gmail.com. To get back to you and leave a comment on this video. Like, talk with us about your retrograde experience and whether it's in your birth chart or a transit that you're experiencing. We would love to know. We would love to chat with you, build community. And with that said, thanks so much. Peace and love, y'all. Have a great day.
Peace.